You got a lot going on. Your head's going 100 mile an hour as well too. Like you're a serious entrepreneur. You're a serious guy that's thinking about business and what the next thing is. How do we grow? How do I keep improving my life? Um, Essentially, I would assume that's something you have with you're like you want wealth, which is happiness, money, love, family, all those things. So how do you kind of balance all of that?
Well, I think for me, the big thing was anything I did, it came from this like big sense of purpose, right? Like family is a big thing. I didn't see my dad as much growing up, right? So like I'm obsessed with my family. My daughter spending time with them is huge. So I think the hiring came from my dad struggling to hire and seeing other contractors struggle. So I think the first thing is the foundation. Like everything that I do, like I don't do half measures. I'm like, if it's a priority for me, like I'm gonna make it work. And so I don't have things that I'm like kind of lukewarm about, which I mean, I'm sure most people don't either. So there's no big difference there, but I think it's that. And then I find a lot of passion in what I do. And then I believe in counterbalance. So I think I don't, first of all, family's on the same page. That's a huge one for me. Like, my wife, like we're on the same wavelength there. But then counterbalance is a big concept for me, meaning I don't believe in trying to do everything all the same at all points, right? Like I might have 2 weeks where I'm just like solely into work, where I'm like, I gotta, we're up leveling the hiring. We're meeting with the management team, and like my wife and daughter knows, like I might not see them for a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? But then I might spend a dedicated week or 5 days where it's nothing but them, and the depth of the time is so fulfilling that it's like I don't feel like I missed something or lost something. So I don't try and like balance everything perfectly. I'm like, at this week or this day, this is my priority. And I make sure that that's the main priority. Because I found in the early days, I would try and do everything. And it was like, I was just a ping pong ball bouncing back and forth between all the different things, right? I'm like, I got to do family for an hour. Then I got to do this. Then I got to, these meetings. Then I have to go to these clients. And I'm like, no, like, what's the important kind of week or month, or like what chapter am I in relative to these priorities? And then I start to feel an area might be a little bit lacking of attention, and then I'll just pivot. And so that's kind of how I mean, I'm a simple guy. I'm a contractor, right? So I'm like, it's like, imagine you got all your subs on a job. It's like, okay, my framers need a little love. I'm gonna go over there and talk to them. And they're like, okay, these guys are falling behind. It's kind of how I look at it.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ConExpo ConEgg podcast. I am your host, as always, Taylor White. This show is brought to you by our good friends over at Komatsu. Got to make sure to thank them. Big supporters of the channel. We appreciate that very much. With me today, I have Matt, who is a fourth-generation Mason who created the Contractor Consultants to revolutionize recruitment for contractors. He has been featured in several publications such as California Business Journal, CEO Weekly, Yahoo Finance, the Detroit News, LA Weekly, and more. At only 30 years old, he has also achieved levels of success that most people would consider remarkable for someone of retirement age. He became a millionaire at 27, works on celebrity homes in LA, writes books and curriculum, serves as a keynote speaker, and is in the early stages of developing a potential TV show. With me today, I have Matt DiBara. Matt, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Dude, what a hell of an intro, eh?
Yeah, I don't know who wrote that, but they did a good job.
Did I sum it up pretty good? Because you sound like a big deal.
Yeah, I don't know how they did that, but
So, Matt, why don't we kind of just talk about and who you are and what you do, and kind of, I guess, why you're on the podcast? Because there's a bunch of things, but basically the biggest outlier that I see is fourth generation business owner, which is really cool. I'm third generation. So, you got over 100 years in the Mason company, which is super cool. Talk about that a little bit.
yeah, I mean, we're blue collar, that was the thing growing up. My great grandfathers, both of them came here from Italy, to the States. They worked with their hands. They took what they knew. And then that passed down to my grandfather. And then my father and my uncle looked up to what my grandfather did. And then I was the same thing with me. I started at a really young age. 9 years old was my first like paid day on the job, and kind of the rest is history. I just loved what I did.
That's awesome. So what kind of involvement do you have with the business now then? You own it. It's you doing it.
Yeah. So I relocated the business to California about 12 years ago. We did some work out here. My uncle would travel out here and whatnot. Like the warm weather. It was always a thing about the cold weather that I didn't love because I grew up outside of Boston. And so, yeah, I mean, run the company. Funny story. I actually got licensed when I was 18 back east because we had the old school kind of family, and it was coming time to take over. It was if you could do it better, do it yourself type thing. And so we've got a funny little backstory, but like most people, it's looking up to what your parents did. And, if they're in the industry or if you know somebody in the industry, it's usually how you get in, is what I see anyway.
No, I respect that. And doing it in the family business. So your great grandfather started the business, your grandfather?
So my grandmother's father and my grandfather's father were both home builders and masons. So you can imagine how that went. They actually built homes together for like my dad and their parents. And one was very much a businessman. It was kind of quick and, wanted the numbers, and the other one was an artist. And so they used to the funny story, the family story is they used to argue on job sites and one would leave. And so there's that rich history of just working together, loving what you do, but doing things slightly different.
Yeah. Did you always have the love for like the industry and doing it? Like you grew up and you were saying like, blue collar, like, do you have the love for like being blue collar? Did you grow up doing it? Like, when did you were you on the tools, or were you just like, hey, I'm going to go here and then here I am owning the business, running it now?
Well, my dad gave me a trowel instead of a shovel in the sandbox when I was like 4, So I mean, like my dad like was really passionate about the trade. And so there's pictures of me, like I had like masonry tools in the sandbox as a little kid, instead of like the plastic beach toys or whatever. So I always loved the industry. But I think what my family did that was interesting was my dad always showed me his work. And at a young age, I would go to his job site. So for me, it was just a kid who enjoyed spending time with his dad and got to play in the dirt. And so I started on the tools, my first day I mixed mortar. And I mean, I placed second in the country in a bricklaying competition. I mean, I grew up doing all of this stuff, layouts, building, all that. And so I didn't realize until later in life, probably 17, 18, 19, that there was like a trades stigma. You go to a restaurant and you're dirty and they're like, we can't take you here. I'm like, what do you mean you can't take me? Like I didn't know any of that because all of the family and friends we're all just contractors.
I have a really relatable thing, and it's actually funny. It was 2 nights ago. I was in the kitchen with my wife, and we were talking. I said, we're running really lean this year, and for the past couple of years, I've been able to focus on the business outward. And this year, like I'm a site guy through and through. I like getting dirty. I like running machinery, and I like doing that stuff. We have office, an office staff that management that takes care of stuff, and it allows me to kind of go off and do my thing, which is nice. But this year, like especially the last month, I've been on site, getting dirty with the boys. And, it is wild how differently people treat you when you walk around with a high vis, dirty shirt on and roughed up jeans and a hard hat on versus when I pull up in my vehicle and I'm wearing nice jeans, maybe a nice pair of Nike sneakers and a nice polo shirt tucked in, and I'm clean. It is insane how differently people treat you. And I know that there's a lot of other stuff in the world where this happens as well too, but how poorly blue collar people get treated on a day-to-day basis is insane.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's, I would do this thing where when I worked on job sites, I never had to worry about the homeowners or the contractors thinking I was the owner ever. Like if I ever wanted to blend in and understand a relationship, like let's say my site super is like, hey, Matt, this GC and all these problems. I'd go, okay, well, I'll go work in the field for a day. Like, I mean, you'd see the real deal because they would never suspect, all that. I mean, everything you're saying is so relatable. I mean, we had old beat up trucks because my dad was passionate about, fixing them, and we had our shop on the weekends, and like, it was just that, that whole deal. I remember, like just friends and growing up, and they'd laugh at the stuff my dad would drive, and and they had no idea the kind of money we were making. It was like my dad was a super humble guy. You'd have no idea. Work boots, t-shirt, like, and he was, we did well for ourselves, but the stigma is real for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And I like the kind of like going through the generations. Like I'm 3rd generation and I think about 4th generation. And like, it's funny because my dad always, he says, he's like, oh, like 3rd generation. He's like, you're the one that's, you're reaping all the rewards from my suffering, But then I think the same as well because we did another big expansion and I put my nuts on the line, and I look at my kids and I'm like, you guys are going to reap the rewards. There's this 10-acre lot that we're on, our office, our warehouse, our stuff. It'll be mortgage free. You'll have you're going to be the winners on it. So it's crazy. Like like, have you tried to grow the business and take on a bunch yourself, or do you feel like fourth generation, okay, I am reaping a lot of the rewards, but I'm also, putting in a lot of skin into the game, of a lot of my own skin into the game?
It's so funny you say that. I go back and forth. I go through these times where, for example, when I was 18 and I got licensed, we had a big argument about lead gen. And that was, you're coming towards the middle of the 2008 financial crisis. It was around 2009, 2010. I saw a bunch of my dad's friends, 30, 40, $50 million a year mega companies, to us at the time, and they're going out of business. We're going there on weekends to look at their equipment, to see if we want to buy their trucks. And I'm going, holy crap, these are huge companies. And so I became obsessed with the marketing and the lead gen and trying to take control of the, getting away from the relationships, because we always had word of mouth, but there was a little bit of bitterness with my dad, because if a GC beat us up, he really couldn't be like, oh, I don't want to do this. We had a lot of work, but a GC could very easily be, or a homeowner for that matter, could be like, hey, I need you to knock 10% off. My dad would have to do it because it wasn't like a consistent pipeline. And so I got licensed at I think it was 18, 19. I was in college. He's like, if you can do this better, do it yourself. And so I got licensed, built a website, and started advertising on like Home Advisor and Angie's List. And I remember, because I was in college and my college was 2 hours away, I got a call for this huge stone restoration project. It was about $300,000. And I called my dad and I was like, hey, because I was doing little stuff. Like I was trying to do like chimneys and foundation repairs and little drainage projects, like stuff I could do on a weekend. And I called my dad and I'm like, hey, I got this huge stone job. You want to take a look? And so I didn't tell him where I got it from or anything. And so he went out there and he closed it. It was like 300 grand. And he goes, where'd you find that? I said, it cost me $46 from one of these lead sites. And so he goes, all right, I was wrong. We'll sit down and we'll talk. He's like, I apologize. But so I go back and forth, there's things I contributed, and then there's also stuff that they did that, I stand on their shoulders for sure.
I love that. And what's interesting though, and whenever you said you moved to California, definitely you didn't move there for the taxes. That's for sure. The weather's great, but the taxes suck. So talk about that move a little bit and the transition there. So you moved away. I get maybe there was some family stuff. We don't need to get into that, but like, and you talked about maybe, earlier on, you're at a celebrity's house, doing some stuff right now. How do you kind of break into that niche? Like, are you in LA, or are you like kind of like Glendale, whatever? And how did you get into that?
Well, that's where I think I take a lot away from my grandfather, great grandfather. So came to Los Angeles, it'd be like we had friends, right, owned Italian restaurants. It'd be like if I took the sauce and I, brought it to another location, right? Like the model, the method, everything we're doing, same stuff. And even some of the people came over later. But I actually moved out here when things were great with my dad. It was just me being licensed and on my own taught me a lot. And then I went back with him and we worked together, and I said, let's figure out a way to do both. Like, let me help you over there and let me come out here. And so things were better than ever when I did that. But I took it from I used the model that my great grandfathers used when they came to America, which was we had like a couple simple things in the business. Number one was treat customers like neighbors. You'll never make the wrong decision. So, my dad or my grandfather would, as a kid, I'd be like, well, do we do this or do that? They said, what would you do if it was Sandra's house? She was our neighbor. And I go, well, I would probably take this out and do that. And you go, well, that's probably the right answer. And so treat customers like neighbors, and then, treat employees like family. And so that's what I did with every client. I mean, I would just go above and beyond. We used to bring Windex, right? And we would literally, if we were working in an area, we had a rule. If there were windows, we would literally Windex, we'd usually wait, the owner comes out, at the end of the drill after, we'd have someone spray it, and, because we really cared and we wanted to show that. But so it was obsessed with the communication for the clients.
Then that runs into, okay, yes, you're doing your marketing and your advertising, but then once I feel like you kind of get in that network of maybe some high profile clients or a high profile builder in that area, and they go, oh, DiBara, masonry, these guys do some crazy good stuff. They go above and beyond. They're great dudes. You should use them. And it's kind of just like word of mouth maybe at that point. Obviously still lots of marketing and advertising, but do you think that kind of, once you kind of get in with a high profile client, then it's like some referral, I guess, from there?
One of the things I learned in business is to spot the breakout jobs. And what I mean by that is jobs that, you could probably think of certain projects or relationships that you're like, oh man, if I nail this, this is the next level. And so I had a few of those, right? One was a leak for a celebrity in a pool. And they had 5 people come out and say there was no leak. And I told them, I said, look, I'll pay $3,000. I'll have your whole thing tested on one condition. If there is a leak, you got to hire me for the job. So I did. And that broke me into like a huge network. And he kind of smiled. He's like, okay, hotshot, shook on it, wrote up an agreement that said, I'll cover all the costs. So I had a few of those. I did something for Jim Henson Studios. They had Charlie Chaplin, the actor's footprints were in concrete on a sidewalk and it was sinking and they wanted to cut it out and mount it. And like they had all kinds of people there and we're like cutting this square that if we break, it's done,
Dang,
So,
that would be scary.
they have a camera crew there, right? So like imagine the stress of my phone. He calls me up. He's like, hey Matt, he goes, they got like Red Hot Chili Peppers and like camera crew, like a whole thing. I'm like, I don't know. Tell them you need some space. I'm like, we gotta get this done. So I think recognizing the breakout projects and then just obsessing over those. Like I would wait for the opportunity and be like, oh, this is one of those. And I would just, I got more selective with it, but that helped build into the network and build the relationships.
Nice. And so you've built a business. Have you grown as far as revenue and employee wise since you took over the company?
Yeah. We're probably 6 times, 7 times the company because we do residential, commercial, and prevailing wage now. So we're doing like government work. We're doing, prevailing wage products. So 3 divisions within the company. We're doing masonry, concrete. We're licensed GCs. So we'll pick up like site work, grading. We'll do, framing if we need to. Like my crews are super well versed.
Wow, that's super cool. So, and how many guys do you have on right now, guys and girls?
48 in the field.
Wow, good for you. Dang, that's impressive. So, I guess then, because there's a bunch of other stuff too, and I mentioned it in the intro. So, you were talking about like a potential TV show. Now, does that play into kind of the marketing and growing the business? I would assume so, or is that kind of like a personal thing where you're like, hey, like I think I have something interesting going on enough here that I can make a show about?
The show came about. So, the goal for the show was helping homeowners with contractor issues. That was one of the things that I kind of built a name out of around here. I started working for a lot of lawyers. I started getting involved in like legal cases and consulting. And so, but I look young and I was never, going back to like the work boots and the jeans and the t-shirt, like that's my kind of normal look. And so when I would go on these projects to investigate what was happening, I was never, they would literally like, they would like, I did a job on there was a multi-$100,000 legal issue with these painters. And they literally handed me the cans of paint. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm doing some stuff for the gutters. Can I see what you're doing? Like, yeah, take this. And they're laughing about how they're using the wrong product. And like, it was this concept of like being young and not, or looking young rather, and being very unassuming. But also having the background and understanding how to solve these issues is kind of the goal of the show.
That's sweet. So is it like in the works? Are you filming it? Is it coming out? Are we going to see it on Discovery after Gold Rush or what?
That's the goal. Yeah, the Gold Rush. Yeah, that's my show, man. I love that show. That's the goal. We're in talks right now. So there's a lot of stuff moving forward on that front.
That's really cool. And now talk about the recruitment side. That, obviously, did you see a help in the labor shortages and you're like, hey, I could do something about this?
Kind of. It was more of an accident. So we were growing the company about 3 years ago. We were at like the pinnacle. Like I was doing a huge prevailing wage job. I think, 10, 15,000 pieces of granite for the Veterans Memorial Cemetery. I think we got an award from Congress right after that for quality and craftsmanship. Like it was a big deal. And so I was doing that and I had a bunch of celebrity projects and then a lot of just the residential division was doing well and we couldn't hire. And it got to the point where my management team, finally, they were like, Matt, like, you don't understand, like, we can't hire. And I'm like, yeah, but like post it out here. Cause I thought sales solved everything because if you go back to the kind of my journey, like 2008 was the thing that really, scared me. So I'm like, boy, you have work, you're good. It's not always the case. And so I lost, many millions of dollars of work and actual hard money in the span of like 3 or 4 months because couldn't staff jobs. The subs that I would work with were too busy. The, smaller companies we partner with, like all the things that I would do to handle excess work just disappeared and we couldn't get anybody. And so I became obsessed with hiring and that's what led to, a year-long journey. It was crazy, the things that we tested. And then we figured out a model and then we built a course, kind of got endorsed by the co-founder of ZipRecruiter and became this really cool course that we built. And then it evolved into, hey, what if we just did this for companies? And I became really passionate about what I think is one of the biggest lever pulls you can have in a business, which is finding great people. And I hated the recruiter model and the traditional staffing agency model. So I felt like those were taxi cabs, and I wanted to build something with our team that was like Uber. It was like, what's the new version of this? And that's kind of what we did.
So how does it work? What makes you different?
A lot of stuff. So we become a partner within the company. So like we become your hiring partner. So we embed our company alongside you. So if you work with a recruiter, you're paying that huge upfront recruiter's fee, right? 15, 20 salary. Or on a staffing agency side, you usually kill culture and you don't typically keep the team member, right? You bring them in hourly and that's that. And so we built a model. It's a low monthly fee and we handle all the lead gen for you, right? So all the candidate lead gen. So we do a competitor analysis. So we understand who your competitors are, a labor market analysis, and then we understand your company's unique elements that create kind of the elevator pitch for your job description. We amplify that using our software and our methods. And then we filter all the candidates for you. So if you're, you Taylor, come to us and you're like, hey, I need 2 machine operators. We're like, great. We'll do all our research, come back to you. Here's the job description. This is the market for pay. What are you paying? Great. And then we'll do all the calling, the screening. So your calendar, you'll never talk to anybody that doesn't meet all the criteria that you set forth. 10 years experience, lives within 30 miles, this. And the nice part about it, low monthly fee, fixed, and you own all of the candidates. So you could say, hey, Matt, let me try Michael. I don't necessarily know that he's great, but let me bring him in the field for a couple of weeks. If he doesn't work out, no problem. With a traditional recruiter, you're not typically doing that because you have to pay that fee. And then we also help you with, candidate rejection. So there's many steps. I'm kind of oversimplifying, but we take all the heavy lifting off of you. Like you don't worry about, you're not job posting, headline testing, you're not resume screening, you're not talking to any unqualified candidates. Like we do all of that. You only get involved. It's like, boom, here's 3 people that meet your criteria.
Which is really nice because everything you're saying, I mean, as somebody that has a smaller business, they might be listening and be like, oh, I don't know, I just hire people myself. But like myself, like I don't have a recruiter or somebody in-house that just hires. So like the careers at kwconstruction.ca email is on my phone and on my office computer. And I go through and I'll look at them. I have another girl that goes through too. And she basically just, okay, somebody, applied for laborer, heavy equipment operator, boom, shoves it into a folder. And when we need somebody, we go into that folder and we look. But it is a full-time thing, especially us, like with our social media and stuff, with our reach. Like we get probably 7 to 8 applicants a day of people being like, hey, you guys hiring? And I mean, it's 7 or 8, but it's 7 or 8 different things that somebody has to dedicate time to look through their credentials, see what they have, folder it properly, file it properly. So it makes sense to have something like that. And it's cool that you're doing it in a more unique way, especially with the pay structure, which is nice because we've tried to do recruiting before for a CFO position, like controller type position. And it was just unsuccessful because the people that they were sending to us just did not match our culture. Like you mentioned, culture. It didn't suit us as well. So it's nice to hear you actually even say that word when you talk about recruiting, because our culture is completely different from the next construction company culture. And I know that it's not cheesy, me being like, we're unique, we're better. But like genuinely, we are different. Like I have a full-time videographer that films everything every single day. Just our whole dynamic is so different. So that is interesting that you kind of integrate that. How is that going? Like, is it something that is it kind of taking off more than you thought it would?
Yeah. I mean, we're in US, Canada. We're looking at the UK market. Australia will probably be in 6 to 8 months. We're cooking. We just got an award. I think 2 awards. One was top outsource hiring company by, and then we got another one, product of the month by CCR Mag, Commercial Construction Magazine. I mean, but it comes from like what you said. It's a deep understanding. I mean, all of our team members that do the recruiting have construction experience. They have a background. They know the terminology. They know the pain points. I mean, like one of the things, I got a report on some of the headline testing we did. I have it here in front of me, but like, there's so much nuance to it. It's almost like back in the day when websites were a thing, you could just put up a website and you were getting calls, right? It was like, you had a website, you were getting, it didn't matter. You could just be like, Joe's Plumbing and that's it. And you're getting, and then when everyone got websites, now you need SEO to be at the top, right? You need to like backlink and, you need content and a blog. It became complicated. And now it's hirings like that. Like we headline test, we look at the competitors, we look at, job description testing. We'll do benefit testing. So it's like, what's the things that candidates want to see at the top? We get to all the candidates within the first 3 minutes. So like we have a full dedicated team. So like that initial interaction for each other would be like, we're literally like that email comes in, boom, we're calling them, we're following up in an hour, we're texting them, like our team, because of the dedication, we're not letting anything through. And then we own and manage that applicant tracking system. So if down the line you're like, hey, I need somebody who's a little bit less skilled. He just, so-and-so just got hurt. We're like, all right, well, let's look at all the people we have. Boom. So there's no like per candidate. Like we do it monthly fee up to 3 different job roles. So like we have a painter and he was like, I need a project manager, I need a bookkeeper, and I need painters. This guy hired 4 painters within the first 6 weeks because that's the job description. That's the funnel, right? So it's like however many people you hire, no problem. So that's kind of the model that we figured out, and it's serving us well, but it's really about helping the contractors. That's the big thing for me.
Yeah, 100%. How old are you?
31.
Wow, dang. You got wife, kids, family?
Yeah, my daughter's 2.5. Yeah, and
Good for you.
yeah.
I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old.
Nice. Okay.
Boy and girl. So how do you manage all this stuff? Because I'm just listening to you talk and it's super interesting, but I mean, you got a lot going on. Your head's going 100 mile an hour as well, too. Like you're a serious entrepreneur. You're a serious guy that's thinking about business and what the next thing is. How do we grow? How do I keep improving my life? Essentially, I would assume that's something you have with, you're like, you want wealth, which is, happiness, money, love, family, all those things. So how do you kind of balance all of that?
Well, I think for me, the big thing was anything I did, it came from this like big sense of purpose, right? Like family is a big thing. I didn't see my dad as much growing up, right? So like I'm obsessed with my family. My daughter, spending time with them is huge. So I think the hiring came from my dad struggling to hire and seeing other contractors struggle. So I think the first thing is the foundation. Like everything that I do, like I don't do half measures. I'm like, if it's a priority for me, like I'm going to make it work. And so I don't have things that I'm like kind of lukewarm about, which I mean, I'm sure most people don't either. So there's no big difference there, but I think it's that. And then I find a lot of passion in what I do. And then I believe in counterbalance. So I think I don't, first of all, family's on the same page. That's a huge one for me. Like, my wife, like we're on the same wavelength there. But then counterbalance is a big concept for me, meaning I don't believe in trying to do everything all the same at all points, right? Like I might have 2 weeks where I'm just like solely into work, where I'm like, I gotta, we're up leveling the hiring. We're meeting with the management team, and like my wife and daughter knows, like I might not see them for a week and a half, 2 weeks, right? But then I might spend a dedicated week or 5 days where it's nothing but them, and the depth of the time is so fulfilling that it's like I don't feel like I missed something or lost something. So I don't try and like balance everything perfectly. I'm like, at this week or this day, this is my priority, and I make sure that that's the main priority. Because I found in the early days, I would try and do everything, and it was like I was just a ping pong ball bouncing back and forth between all the different things, right? I'm like, I gotta do family for an hour, then I gotta do this, then I gotta, these meetings, then I have to go to these clients. And I'm like, no, like what's the important kind of week or month, or like what chapter am I in relative to these priorities? And then I start to feel an area might be a little bit lacking of attention, and then I'll just pivot. And so that's kind of how I'm a simple guy. I'm a contractor, right? So I'm like, it's like, imagine you got all your subs on a job. It's like, okay, my framers need a little love. I'm gonna go over there and talk to them. And they're like, okay, these guys are falling behind. It's kind of how I look at it.
I respect that. And it's interesting because I mean, it's sacrifice, right? Especially owning your own business and doing a bunch of stuff. I mean, we were supposed to go on a family vacation out to Prince Edward Island last month. And I said we were going to go this month, and that was this week. And we're not there because we're on a bunch of projects right now that require me to be here. And that's what we're doing. And I think also it just requires the right woman. A lot of guys are always like, oh, some advice. And I say like, marry the right woman, because it definitely takes its toll. And your wife understanding, especially in blue collar, it's early morning, it's late nights. Our summertime, well, you came from a climate that was probably very seasonal. But here it's super seasonal. So my summertime is my summertime. Like I have to make a year's worth of salary in 6 months, 5 months, really. Let's go. So it's big sacrifice, but it's nice hearing that at least you try to not per se balance, but you understand that it's like, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time here, and now I have to dedicate some time here. It's refreshing. It's nice to hear.
Yeah, I mean that's what's worked for me. I mean, and I think to your point, it's having being on the same page with people. I mean, across even the companies and what I do, it's like really big on like where are we going, what are we doing, and measuring the small things, and then zooming out and measuring the big stuff. And I think resets are important too. I try to reset every 6 to 8 weeks. I'll do some form of a reset, and I think that's helped me. Like go to a cabin or just take a day and kind of unwind a little bit has kind of always, because anytime I do that, I get a new perspective and I'm like, oh, I missed this, or I was too focused here. But yeah, there's a big element of sacrifice. I mean, for sure.
Yeah, for me, that's running. I like the reset of running. I'll think about stuff differently when I'm on a run, listening to a podcast or a book. Not like necessarily like working out. That's like when I'm doing that, I'm kind of just like I'll have some loud music going on. But when I'm running, I really think about what we're doing, what projects we're doing. I think about my life. I think about my family. Am I being a good father? Am I being a good employer? All of those things. And it's nice because I'm sure you think about those things too when you're on your reset as well too. So it's cool to hear that. Where is DiBara masonry? Like, where's that headed? Where's that going? Like, where do you see it going? I know you're talking about TV show and stuff like that. Like, do you want to continue to grow the business? Do you want to stay at the current size you are, but just be more efficient, be better?
I think for me, it'll grow. It'll grow organically. I think the big push to grow. We've got the three different verticals. I see we're definitely being pulled more in the government side. Prevailing wage projects. I mean, we're like literally being pulled towards them. That and high end commercial. So I think organic growth, as opposed to like me pushing it and being like like really behind it to make sure that happens. For me, the contractor consultants helping contractors. I mean, that's the coolest thing. Like we have a Slack channel, and just even before I hopped on here, we made 3 hires for companies. I mean, we're looking at sometimes 50, 60, 70,000 resumes a month across the company. Like that's the stuff that's really cool, is because I know there's a lasting impact, and I know that we're bridging the gap between great candidates and great employers, and that's, at least right now, that's where I find the most excitement.
So for your recruitment business, so you charge a monthly fee, but do you get paid out on a success rate?
Nothing. Nope.
It's just, hey, here's your monthly thing catered to you and your business, and that's what it is.
100%. We wanted to build. I took every single hiring company that I had ever worked with, and I was like, okay, what did I like? What did I not like? And we tried to just like, from the perspective of a contractor, build a business that contractors would like. I mean, I know it sounds crazy and simple, but like that's literally, like, it was a whiteboard. It was like stuff I don't like, stuff I do like. How do you make this work? What would have to happen? And that's, that was kind of I know it sounds oversimplified, but that's really what we did.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense because, for instance, we went from a lot of paper to digital, and to find the right company to in-house our tailgate safety forms, heavy equipment checklist, the vehicle checklist, like just everything we were doing on site on paper, bringing it to electronic. The best software we found was from a guy who actually worked in the industry and then was like, this sucks. I need to find somebody to build me an app that can house this thing, but take my ideas and make it actually good, because there's a lot of other businesses out there that do, hey, we take your paper stuff from the job site and we make it digital, but it sucks because it's made from a bunch of software developers that have no idea about construction or anything like that. And that's what I like about you, is you're like, hey, I'm from the industry, so I understand that the recruiting process sucks. So I teamed up with other people, but also it's me driving it with my ideas, being like, here's what sucked about it that I thought, and here's how I make it not suck. And that's why I think it works though, Matt.
Yeah. And I mean, it was funny because I sat with I don't have a business background, right? Like I'm not a business guy, right? Don't let the buttons fool you. I'm not a business guy. It's like, so when we were building all this out, myself and my co-founder, who's a genius, I mean, he's amazingly talented and we've got a great team, but we were building this out. We met with consultants, right? We were like, hey, this is what we're doing. And it was amazing. These big name consultants, marketing, business they're like, charge more money. They're like, you're not charging enough. I'm like, no, but like we can make enough, like this will work. I said, I want to be with these contractors long term. And they were like, charge, like all the advice they gave us was contrary to the things that we were thinking. And so when we launched and really started to grow the company, the things that contractors loved about it, like for example, the success fee, every consultant we talked to was like, you should have a small amount, even if it's 3, 4, 500, because that'll transfer to bottom line and bonuses. I'm like, yeah, but like, I don't know what happens if they don't hire them, and what happens if they hire 5. Like, it doesn't feel like the whole purpose is to just own the hiring and do the best we can for that company. I'm like, and whatever results they get, and we'll tweak it every month. We'll make it better for them. But that's what we're selling. And, it was contrary to everything they said. But now when we listen to the testimonials, like, it's literally the opposite of the consulting meeting is what the contractors are like. Yeah. And I love this about them, or they're so easy, or I love that the recruiters all have, construction experience, the technology they like. It's just all these little points that they said we were obsessing over things too much that didn't matter. They're like, get minimum viable product out to the market. I'm like, no, I want to get the best product we can out to the market. Charge more. I'm like, no, I want to charge fair. They're like, charge a success fee. I'm like, no, I want them to be excited by the fact that our fee in a year is less than one hire from a recruiter. Like, that's important to me. And so it's interesting to see all that come full circle.
I love that. And, I like that, like going against the grain and doing stuff the opposite of what people are saying. I remember when I first started doing Instagram and social media 6 years ago, and I'm from a small town. Everybody was like, my daughter's on Facebook. Like, why are you on Facebook? And I'm like, well, because like, I think that's where every business will be in like 4 years. And sure enough, here we are. And every company now is scrambling and they're like, we need to do social media. So like, I definitely think, especially you listening to other people, not listening to other people when they tell you to do something, you do the opposite. I think that's a really important lesson for people listening as well, too, though, is like, I always analyze and see like, okay, who's giving me the advice and where are they? Should I be taking advice from them? And if the answer is yes, they're still saying no. Sometimes going with your gut and trusting yourself is always the best thing as well, too. There's nothing wrong with going against the grain. If everyone goes left and you go right, hey, nothing wrong with that.
And sometimes that even if somebody has, but the hard part for me was we left these meetings and they had a lot more money than us. So like, that was the tough part. I was like, man, these are, 9-figure.
They're doing something.
Yeah,
right.
9-figure million. I'm like, I don't have that kind of wealth, So that was where I was like, it was tough. But I said, I'd rather fail on the things I believe in than make it on something that I just can't wrap my head around. And I said, that's going to show when I talk to someone like you. If I'm here and I do charge a success fee, I'm going to cringe when you ask me that question because I don't believe that was, the best way to model our business. So yeah, I picked a lane that I was willing to, fail at. Well, I guess I looked at what failure could I live with? And that was how I made my decisions.
So is the goal, I guess, for your recruitment to continue to expand and provide your services for more and more contractors to go into UK, Australia, and all these other areas and start providing value for people that need people?
100%. I mean, the US right now, we're making a heavy focus. I think, we're exponentially growing, which is super exciting. But yeah, I mean, I think the goal is, because there's nothing, I mean, it's the way we've built the business. It's a no brainer for most companies. I mean, we have companies from, they're making their first hire, right? We had a handyman, he hired his first, assistant in the field, all the way up to like, we have some companies that do, 9 figures and have like, 20, 30, 40 locations. So, yeah, I think for me, it's like the biggest lever pull for a company, right? Like a lot of companies are like, I got to improve my sales team. I'm like, or you hire a great sales manager. They're like, I got to, tweak the operations. I'm like, or we find you an amazing ops person that's been doing this for 10 years that knows exactly what to do. Like, the hiring is such a hack. Like when I realized it, I started studying a lot of like really successful business people, multimillionaires and billionaires. And I looked and they still hire. Like I have a client of mine, he's a billionaire. And like, I literally watched him try and recruit somebody while I was there doing the quote. Like he was meeting with a financial person. He's like, hey, by the way, if you're not, and I'm thinking to myself, if it's worth his time at his scale, like clearly he's good at leverage, right? Looking at what to do and what not to do. And like hiring is such a hack. And I think maybe a lot of the big companies don't want this out because they don't want people, because it's a local sport. I mean, you're typically geographically limited unless you've got a reason people want to fly out and move to wherever you're located.
Yeah, exactly. And especially around us too. It's a lot of people call it, poaching or whatever, and I was always like, oh, I'll never poach it ever. But now I'm like, dude, business is business. And if you got a guy that I know I can make happier working here, a guy or girl happier here, then hey, I'm going to go and do that. I'm going to offer that because I have every right to do that. What do you see? Like, what are people wanting the most? I guess, like when you're recruiting people, what are people most concerned about now that might shock people? Or like, is it benefits? Is it, do you guys, what, when I say pension, do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know sometimes with
Yeah.
the States, like we have RSPs. Do you have RSPs and that stuff?
RSPs. Yeah. Yep. Mhm.
Okay. So yeah. So like, is it that sort of stuff, or is it strictly just we want more money? Or is it like, what is it?
It's interesting. We find that, and I found this even with my company as we were growing it, um, people really want to feel appreciated. And I think if you have a culture of loving the work and you can emulate a tight group, there's a lot around feeling appreciated for work. There's a certain pay scale, right? Like there's a certain level of pay that somebody wants. And there's a certain level of consistency, right? Like people don't want to feel like they're going to sit home and worry whether or not they're going to be able to pay the bills, right? If you got to have consistency of work and a at least market matching pay scale. So assuming those boxes are checked, the big one we see is just like small little things, because we know this because early on, one of the exercises we did is we would do what's called we create an assessment called an honest employee audit. And so it's a 1 to 10 scale and it's built around the psychology of what a happy employee is versus a non-happy. And so we would do this assessment for companies, we still do. And their employees would fill out 1 to 10 scale, the things that they like. So we could see, pay versus appreciation versus growth. And we would get these reports back. And what we found in doing that exercise, and we would do another one, we would take companies and we would say, who's your top 1, 2, or 3 people? The people who have been with you the longest, they're the happiest. And we would, in the early days, we would interview them and we would ask them, why have you given 10 years of your career to this company? Why have you dedicated yourself here? Why have you stayed? And it would always be these little things. Like I've never once in those interviews ever heard because I make $3 an hour more. It's like, hey, that time when, my wife was pregnant and the pregnancy went bad and you see a grown man tearing up, and he's like, when the pregnancy went bad and, we didn't know if we were going to lose the baby. Like I had, I get chills talking about it. It's guys like, guy gave me 2 weeks off, made payments for my vehicle. It was the things that made somebody feel really special or appreciated, either daily, little things, showing up with a Gatorade on site or, an ice cream or doing a little cookout, or it was a hard moment where the company stepped up and they felt like they weren't just a number, that they remembered 10 years folded into one memory. And it was like, would you ever leave? And they're like, no, I wouldn't. This is my place. And so that was really interesting for me. I didn't expect to see, in a 10-year horizon, one really big thing or a lot of little small things were the anchor that would keep somebody there.
I like that, because there's a lot of people that will chase. I've had guys leave. They're like, hey, I love it here, but I'm going to get $1 more working at the next place. And I'm like, okay, great. Then sayonara. See you later. Don't want you working here anyways. But I think about a lot of our long-term employees as well, too. And you're right. It's like, yeah, everyone can always go and find more money somewhere else, I think, because especially with, people need people right now. But you're right. It's a lot of the little stuff and not so much I remember when we first started trying to do we would do events and throughout the year, we do our annual camp day, right? So we bring everyone up to a property that we own. We bring 4-wheelers. We have a big skeet shooting competition with guns. We do a big barbecue. We have some drinks. We hang out. It's a good time. We have barbecues once a month here at the shop. But you can do those things and say oh, we do stuff for our employees, but it's right, you're throwing a pizza party. But it's the smaller stuff that when they need a hand or they need something, hey, I'm going through a tough time with my wife right now. I really could use Friday, blah, 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 payments and this and that. And you really help them out. That really goes a long way. But the opposite side to it is I've also been burnt by employees that I have helped out personally, not even through the company. And that's me. That's on me. I'm not blaming them. That's me being sure, I'll give you money and help you out because I feel bad. And then 2 years later, they leave because some stupid thing happened and they got hung up on it. So employee side versus employer side, I see both sides of that as well too, because those instances almost make it for me that I don't want to go out of my way and help out people because I got burnt so many times by doing that to people. So it's tough.
That was tough. Yeah. I mean, we found if the communication element, the honest employee audit helps a lot, right? Because we find very few people quit the day they quit, right? There's some it's little stuff. It's I lost my drill and I told my super and then he said he was going to get reimbursed and never did. You're like, dude, if you just told me, this is not a big deal, but construction sometimes it's like, they don't want to complain, or they're like, why should I have to ask twice? It's like, well, it'd be really nice if you did, because we just forgot. It wasn't anything intentional, you know? But the communication stuff, the honest employee audits are huge, because you'll catch those little friction, like almost like the rock in your shoe is the analogy I like to give. It's like you're walking and it kind of annoys you. And then one time you step down and it just hits that right spot and you're like, I'm done. And so if you can eliminate those friction points, it helps. But yeah, I mean, there's unfortunately just some bad apples sometimes. And, it's not always a good fit either.
I like that. The honest employee review. Yeah. I'd actually be interested in doing that. I think that would be really cool. And it's almost crazy because there's almost like you can think about some people that you're like, I don't want to see their answers. You know what I mean? I kind of almost cringe at it because I'm like, I don't want to see. It's like, not because we're not paying our people or anything like that. It's nothing to do with pay, but just like little things that I know would be like, oh, dude, really?
So it's anonymous, and it's just they click buttons, right? 1 to 10. So you don't actually, I mean, it'd be hard. You might know because somebody might put low on a certain number, but it'd be very difficult to know. But you'll find like, we do it, and with companies, you'll clearly see. I mean, we've sat with, especially where we're building out our model, we would sit with owners, right? Or, team leads, whatever the case may be. And we'd be like, how's your culture? And they'd be like, everybody loves it here. We do this, this, this. Okay. So we'd send this assessment out, right? We'd get it back, and you'd get like 4 out of 10 on pay, or like 2 out of 10 on growth as an average. And you're like, hey, like, it's a little awkward, but you're like, hey, I know you feel like everything's great, but clearly there's something here, because there's 26 people and they, you got an average of a 30. The good news is, about it and we can fix it. We can put a plan in place. But I think that's the big thing. And I was like you in the early days. I was like a little bit I was like, oh man, like, do I really want to open the store? And like, but it's sometimes it's better to know and at least have a plan for it.
Yeah, 100%. And because what you're saying, it's like you could be so disconnected. Like I could be sitting here being like, oh, I wouldn't be paid because I'm, but then maybe like I get the pay thing back, and it's like, yeah, dude, you got like a 4 out of 10 on pay. And I'm like, dang, either they're all really greedy or I'm just really dumb and I need to pay everybody substantially more money, which I'm sure everybody would love at the end of the day though, too. So I would love that as well. That would be great. So what's next for Matt DiBara? I mean, TV show, you're on the air, you're doing this sort of stuff. Like, where are you going? Where are you headed? What do you want to do? Where should people watch out for you?
I mean, I love the industry. You'll catch me in the industry, that's for sure. Much more on the hiring side. I think trying to get this information out, teaching people techniques and strategies. I mean, I just want to get the word out. I think it's the best investment a company can make. Like if you had a customer that if you could find a customer that would buy from you every single day without fail for the next 8 or 10 years, for sure, you'd go out of your mind to make sure you won them over. Like that's like hiring. And I think what we're seeing is we're seeing a shift. I have a lot of connections to like the VC world, the venture capital world, and a lot of them, I mean, the first thing they want to know is the org chart. They're like, I'm not worried about P&L. I'm not worried. I mean, they look at it, right? But they're like, I'm not worried about that. We have our marketing dialed in. We can fix, client retention. We can do all of these things. So like, who do we have? Like, what's the experience? And so really, when you look at building wealth and you look at the asset of the business, so much of it is the people. And so that's kind of my message. And that's what where you'll see me and what I'll be saying.
I love that. And then hopefully we'll see you at Con Expo in 2026.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a good time. So definitely make sure you get over there and we'll have to hang out and have a quick beer and chat in person. That would be a blast.
Yeah, I'd love to, Taylor. Seriously.
All right. I appreciate you coming on today, Matt. Good chatting with you. I think that you have a lot of crazy cool things coming up and I can't wait to see you coming out after Gold Rush.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. I love Gold Rush.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to the podcast brought to you by our good friends over at Komatsu. Thanks for coming on, Matt. We'll see you next time.